Hello everyone, and welcome back to Tiny Rogues, where today we're doing another challenge run. Specifically, the gimmick is not attacking. However, as you will see very quickly, um, passive effects and companions are allowed. And that's basically the entire gimmick of this run is that I'll be using passive effects, companions, and things like the little radio charm in order to fight my way through all of the different levels and without using the attack button on enemies. And we'll see, but I also believe I don't use bombs either, which would probably still be perfectly valid. And I'm doing this on Cinder 16, which is the max difficulty. The class I'm using is Esper, specifically because they get some pretty unique, powerful passive traits, like Psionic Blast, which is 3 explosions every 2 seconds on a random enemy. So that way I can just stand around and then have all of my enemies explode. Um, as you can see with those little white, with some of the white rings, there's just going to be a ton of effects all over the place. Um, I also have a giant teddy bear that decides to rip up all of my enemies for me, which is wonderful. Um, so yeah, so I'm doing this on the max difficulty because this is I just thought it would be fun, and I like playing on Cinder 16 in the current patch. It's just, it adds a lot of flavorful difficulty where it doesn't feel oppressive. It just adds more to the screen, increases enemy health a little bit, and just gives you some more to deal with to keep the runs fun. As you can see, the first boss wasn't any trouble, and we're on to floor 2. And as I go along, I'll be explaining the traits and other selections. And like I said, this was in terms of, I think there I just grabbed the shield for the block, which is 1 health that restores every floor. But yeah, so this is just a very, honestly, this was just a really relaxing run because I could just focus on dodging and positioning and not have to worry about also lining up attacks because all of the passive effects are going to be doing stuff. And I also didn't have to worry about finding any good weapons because I'm not going to be using them since I'm not hitting the attack button. So here, normally I would go to get a rare weapon, but instead I go to the shrine to get other fun effects. Yeah, and like I said, I chose the starting class Esper because of their unique traits, so you can probably do this with any class. There is, and there I chose faster periodical effects, so that way all of the passive stuff like the explosions and the music notes happen faster. Um, so basically just increasing my um, not attacking speed by 10%. You can probably do this with any class with the radio starting option, and then also as you get companions along the way. But this was just I don't know, for hype on doing it on max difficulty and keeping it straightforward. This was the starting class that I chose. Uh, yeah, it's been a little bit while since I've done this run. I'm actually recording this after playing Shadow of the Erdtree DLC for the first time, or the voiceover on it. So I'm just thinking about invasions and other fun stuff, and that's all I'm going to be talking about that because this is a Tiny Rogues video. Again, second boss is very straightforward. Um, I just one of the things in a previous patch was they had like a tether distance on some of the melee companions. However, the devs removed that and it actually really improved the tracking, and also melee companions like the bear will also just chase everybody throughout the entire level. Um, yeah, and faster periodical effects are always a good thing when I'm not doing any direct attacks myself. I'm just going to the high heavens mostly just because the music's great. Sorry, I thought I could sip my coffee quietly, but I guess not. So this is a little bit longer of a run than most of the ones that I do with, and there I got health because if you Basically, I just want to be able to use my flasks, and I can also afford to stop in more soul rooms because I don't need gold to upgrade weapons. So basically, all my gold is just going to be used on like shop items. Like I said, I don't have to get weapons or weapon upgrades because I'm doing everything passive. Everything is just going through passive damage. And this is honestly, like I said, one of the most straightforward gimmick challenges there is. So I'm not even putting the, oh, can you do it without attacking? And I'm just like, no, you can. You just have to have a good strategy. So, yeah, welcome to the success run. Spoilers, I guess. Yeah, I thought that this one would have way more, I know I'm a broken record on the premise, just talking about it, but with the more relaxed pace, I'm actually able to keep up. Where on some of the speed runs, where I'm just going for like crazy movement stuff, where this one is just like slowly and methodically moving forward, making sure I'm healing. Just doing all the events slowly without trying to be in a hurry. I'm actually able to keep up with the commentary, and yeah. Now the one downside of this particular, well, you don't start off with a lot of strength, which means you can't necessarily hold a lot of equipment. And the other thing about the passive effects is everything being like random targeting, is that I don't necessarily have a ton of control over where all the attacks go, where if you were using a weapon, you would be able to very deliberately clear a room one enemy at a time. However, for bosses like this where they're just in a fixed location, I can very easily focus on dodging the pedals. Well, in this case, the bear is literally just standing on top of, effectively Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors, and we're able to beat them up. Yeah, and now here I take the Skull Shield over the Palisade Shield because Suppression is 1 free health every boss room. So basically I will have pretty much free damage points are always nice, because I don't think I'll be doing very many damage boosts here, but one thing with Cinder 16 is enemies can be stacked with multiple random effects, and there I picked a trait where I can basically have 3 knife orbitals and they inflict bleed damage, which is great. They just do a lot. It's not as helpful as just the periodic explosions because those just auto target to a specific enemy, where here I do have to position a little bit more. They did add orbital sway in one of the patches, meaning that like as long as they're within like enemies are within like a certain donut, the knives will auto track to them. And this shield that I picked up for the extra health, like I don't think I'm going to be damage boosting, but oh yeah, as you can see under the Cinder 16 text, enemies can have multiple enhancements, and sometimes, like the Danger Zone, you can get some that in conjunction just put a ton of stuff on the screen, where others are more of just resistances. The resistance ones are not as bad because they just make the enemy more difficult to take down, but like if you get Danger Zone plus some other ones, like there are times where either you have to use the dash or you're just like stuck. The game is designed that I think that there are formations of things where you have to use the invincibility dash in order to jump across, so stamina management is very is very important. I think probably a very hard, a harder version of this challenge would be like no stamina, hitless, or like no healing. Like those ones are, those would be much, those are more difficult than me passively walking around. And as you can see with the Shambling Mound and the getting to boss level 4, things are taking a little bit longer in the fight, and it took longer to get through the first little robots, and because they move around the arena more, the bear is not able to keep up as quickly. And then one of the modifiers from Cinder 16 is for the first 8 seconds of Phase 1 and Phase 2, you only do 50% damage, which makes it a lot harder to just like burst down the boss. However, again, because I'm just doing passive, I can just focus on avoiding the patterns and not taking damage, where if I had weapons, I would be very tempted to try and like force myself into a more dangerous part of the pattern in order to do more damage. Yeah, this run isn't even that much slower than some of the weapon runs that I have. And there I just get a ton of armor. And the stone plate ring, like a few other things in this game, is a dark soul. Is not. Yeah, no, there's a stone plate ring in Dark Souls 2. I was thinking the Ring of Steel Protection from Dark Souls 3. But there are, maybe it's the speckled stone plate ring from Dark Souls 3, but still there are, in one of the Dark Souls games, there are stone plate rings that increase your resistances, so getting armor from that is very fitting. Granted, here I'd probably go to the giant treasure chest anyway, because you can get a lot of really good items from them. Like this is they're one of the highest drop rates for like legendary level loot. And here I'm mostly just taking a lot of stuff for just like cash, because I'm just not able to use the stuff for weapons. Like there are some good weapons potential. Whetstones are always generally really nice. It just stinks that I'm not able to use all of the stuff. But the epic level items, the next time I run into a pawn shop, will fetch me a decent amount of gold, which I guess we'll see whether or not I use during the run. There I'm mostly debating whether the turtle armor is more fitting than the damage of the little nightgown that my character is wearing at the moment. Totems. Oh yeah, totems are like one of the hardest, in my opinion, one of the harder enchantments to deal with, just because they are one of the ones where if you have multiple enemies spawning totems at the same time, then the totems are basically filling up the screen with more projectiles, and it's just very difficult in order to take down the totems and the enemies that spawn the totems simultaneously without getting hit, as more and more stuff fills up the screen. And there are some enchantments like the Bone Enchanted, where even if you defeat all of the enchanted enemies, the enchantment doesn't go away until the screen is completely clear of enemies. Now there, I'm just double checking the keywords. So Lightning Force is specifically on a trigger, but because the explosions are technically triggered periodically and are considered trigger damage, that means that I also get that I also end up getting to trigger the chain lightning periodically. Granted, not as fast. However, it inflicts the shock debuff, which causes enemies to take more damage. Where bleed is passive damage over time, unlike percentage burst in Elden Ring, which I thought I was done talking about, but it is on my brain today. I hate the Joust Knight. I think this is one of the easier Joust Knight runs that I have because I just am focused on dodging everything, but because they move so fast, especially just like across the straight line of the screen and dodging, like, I haven't figured out the optimal place to damage them while also being safe, because the center of the screen is the safest spot because you're able to just like circle around them and then have the other knights go past you, but it's not great for dealing damage. But since I'm able to, and because they move so fast, it's difficult for companions to deal extra damage, as you can see the bear just trying to chase them across the screen. However, the explosions and the chain lightning are able to just get them, which is really nice, and it made this fight simpler than trying to chase down an enemy with a horse if you have just like a sword. Yeah, and here I just go with I think I went with the sandal. I was waiting to see what I chose, but I think I just chose the sandal so I could get the extra equip load. And knowing that I have a bunch of effects, I can just stack the turtle armor for extra health and armor. However, because I didn't equip it in the room I obtained it, I have to wait for it to get attuned, so I have to clear like an extra combat encounter or two, and then it will trigger for me, and I will have extra health and armor. And now, with the point of getting enemies to more health, things are, I think, no, it's floor 7 is the last floor before the floors start getting extended. But yeah, as you can see, I got the jump in health and armor points after clearing the combat encounter, since the turtle armor was successfully attuned. And I think mostly that feature is implemented just so you don't like abuse re-equipping items for like gaining health, and just like have a bunch of different suits of armor in your inventory that you just like cycle through for having extra health. Although there are some combinations of things that you can do, like in one run, like I was holding the paladin, like I had the complete paladin set. However, I was just like swapping to basically being unequipped. Yeah, 6 free health from that. That's totally busted. I was swapping. I had a two-handed weapon, but I was swapping to being unequipped so I could have the shield equipped after a boss room, and then and buying the purging stone and the green blossom basically were increasing my good alignment, so that way I don't have to spend as many souls, and I can technically use those as other currency or for healing. Yeah, and then the thought train that I had was gone, but we are here for boss number 7. Neptune isn't ever too bad. He does move around the arena a lot, but because of the patterns on the corners aren't too bad. Oh yeah, I was talking about the paladin's cause of abuse. So basically, I was having a two-handed weapon and couldn't have the shield equipped, but because the shield was in my hand and was attuned, it still counted as having the set bonus when I entered a new floor after a boss room and got all of my armor and a heart back. So that was funny that I was able to abuse it in that particular case, because I had a two-handed weapon where I couldn't normally wield the shield. However, by weapon swapping to one basically empty-handed where I could use the shield, I was able to activate the set bonus, but because it never left my equipment slots, it never became unattuned. So even though it was negatively impacting my carry weight. Alright, and then because I have such a ridiculous amount of armor, I went with foregoing some health in lieu of having another orbital. Just because more orbitals is more damage. Because the rate at which orbitals go around is the same, with the exception of having some particular traits or items. So just more orbitals means that they just pass through the enemies faster. And being on floor 7, we are officially in the second part of the run. Oh yeah, I think I automatically grabbed Mind Spiral here. It doubles the rate of the periodical effect, so the explosions and the chain lightning will now happen twice as fast, and then also with whatever increased percentage from the items that I have. So despite being a very good boost, there's still a long way to go in this run. And here, all the epic some of the epic items that I was saving, I basically now have more money than I can reasonably know what to do with this run, because I don't have to upgrade weapons, which costs 20 gold at the blacksmith. I think it gives a 5% base damage increase, which with all of the, it may not sound like a lot, but with all the crazy percentage modifiers you get at the end game, it matters. And I think I somehow get enough strength where I'm able to then just use the knife shoes here. Or at least it's close enough that I'm able to, I think I just unequip the Inquisitor's mask here, and then just use the knife shoes so that on dash I throw knives. And mostly, like, the stats of strength, dex, and int don't really matter as much. It's more of just like grabbing everything to get the traits. Like, I think int and strength are the most important, because strength just has a flat damage percentage increase to everything that you do, and it increases the critical hit modifier, and there are some things that do scale off of it, but everything that I'm using right now is basically just scaling off of whatever flat damage and other equipment modifiers that I have, or trait modifiers, not stats like weapons. And then, as you can see, as soon as the intimidate factor goes off for the timer, that the boss's health bar just melted by comparison. Here I think I just grabbed the gloves. I don't know if they're actually, I don't think that they're that useful for this particular run, but I have really good items in other slots. Yeah, the Iron Maidens, I think I may have mentioned it before, are one difficult class of enemy where all of their projectiles just stay on the field even after they perish. And there I just use the repair powder is great. It can't be used mid-fight, but before entering a room or after a fight, you can use it to restore all of your armor points. So there I used it to just snag 5 armor points and 5 extra health, which was just a huge amount after I spent a health to get through the door. Just again to keep getting ever closer to collecting all of my traits. And I haven't used it in particular for a while, but I think this, I changed over to using the start with 5 experience, but, yeah, it's start with 5 experience, and then, but it costs 6 experience to level up. That particular setting, I think, allows you to get like pretty much all of your traits faster than you would with the other one. Like it takes 31 experience to fully level instead of 29. However, you get your first trait and effectively in your first stat booster room, and it's just a great help to just like keep things clear. And the next trait is at 7, where even if you did the other one, the first trait's at 4 and the second one's at 9. So you get both 2 traits faster. So it's not until like the very last trait, like second to last and last trait, where you have a lot more stuff to just like help you get through everything, that you even really see like a negative rate on things. So I don't know, doing the math on that one helped, because at first I was like, no, I don't want it to take longer to level up in the end game, and I'm just like, wait a minute, I need to get to the end game in order to level up and get there. But yeah, so that's why I'm going with the 6 experience per level, but start with 5, just because overall you get your first several traits much faster than you do starting with 1 experience, but still having it take only 5 experience to level up and gain a trait. Alright, as you can see again, as soon as the basically the timer drops, then yeah, second phase goes down. I think one of the other things that is, oh yeah, demolition helmet's great just because those do explosion damage. So I now just do more explosion damage with those, which is amazing. So those are amazing gauntlets. However, they're entirely useless to me because I don't use any primary attacks based off of this particular challenge. So although doing Judgment would do a lot of really nice, and there I just got my good modifier up and just dumped the accessory because it was a small amount of souls. But yeah, so amazing gauntlets. I could have bought them, however, entirely useless for this particular run, unlike the helmet that increases explosion damage, which just makes a lot of my passives better. And there I kept the key just because there are times where like there's a room that you really need and you need a key or a bomb to get to them. And here I just kind of like run through and I don't even grab anything because I have enough cash to not worry about anything. Yeah, having passive stuff for when all of like the little maggots are around is amazing, just because there are just so many. Trying to target all of them is just not easy. And because as soon as I could run to a pawn shop, I already have a ton of stuff that I could sell to get even more cash that I don't really super have a purpose for, but still, but is always still very nice to have. And I actually buy some beer here because it gets some damage boosts, I think. And there's not really, and I'm just like, I don't have anything else to spend my gold on, so why not give myself a nice flat damage boost with these consumables. And here I'm going over and checking the tipsiness limit, which is 5, so I can have a few more beers before they start to take down my health. And there I just use the cash to refill my health flasks, because again, like, especially when I was playing like Fire Emblem younger, like resource hoarding is a thing. It is, I'm trying to not resource hoard as much as I used to, where you get to the end of a Fire Emblem game and you still have all of your stat boosters because you're like, I don't know who needs them yet, I want to save it just in case I need it later, and then you just like never use it. So I've been trying to avoid that, especially because I'm doing again off screen, but I think I'm probably gonna have some highlight videos soon of going back to the Hector hard mode randomizer Iron Man grind, and for that it's just like I have basically you want to be able to, you don't know if someone is gonna die, so you don't necessarily know, like, you don't want to waste a stat booster, but then you also need to still not have you still need to make it through the level, which is very difficult when Pegasus Knights are replaced with Wyvern Riders and have way more effective attack speed and defense than they had previously, and your units may or may not be useless or have good weapon availability. Yeah, shielding is also one of the harder enchantments to deal with because they just take a huge damage reduction, like for a period of time, but then after a little while, it lifts, and then you're able to just deal a ton. Yeah, again, great helmet, entirely useless. Here I think I'm just like, oh, Power Scouter, this is great. I don't think I have anything that'll do that much damage, so plus 50 powers, plus 50 damage, flat damage. Wonder if I grab an extra. I think I'm just saving the souls, but I think in like this first room, yeah, it already broke because I already did over 9,000 damage. So I put back my demolition helmet back on, and away we go on our trek towards fighting Death, who is the first big boss hurdle. Not that everything's been trivial. Like, this challenge is very straightforward, but it's not not trivial, but again, straightforward and very, very possible. But with Death is one of the, like, the original end game boss of Tiny Rogues before they added the Mega Death and the Heaven and Hell patch update. And there again, 5 free health is amazing. I have on here, I can actually go to the what was I re-rolling for? Repair powder. Yeah. That's why I was re-rolling, is because now I have 2 one-use refill 5 health out of combat items, and they're oh yeah, demolition boots. Now all of my explosions deal 100% max damage, and I don't know if I gained the swiftness bonus, but it's amazing that now all of my explosions are just that much stronger. It really did help. Usually this set, but this is not one of like the biggest impact sets you could go for, but because I have so much passive explosion damage, it was absolutely worth it to get that. And I forget the exact setting. Yeah, and then if I have enough souls, I like getting just like a third stamina, just in case I'm in a bad position and you just need to triple dash to just get out of there. And here I'm focusing on cleaning up the little robots because Death is one of the bosses where they have enough projectiles on their own without the enchantments to be non-trivial in just dodging everything. So it's always important to get those guys out of the way, because literally any extra thing on the screen could mean that you're losing health versus having a safe area to stand. Because the danger zones, like, they're just there. They could just be in an unfortunate spot, and sometimes you just have to take the damage. So having the amount of health that I did is important. And then I think I grabbed the Zealot gloves for, again, even faster periodical effects. And now we move on to the High Heavens, or I should say is the land of high health enemies. So every so the rewards for clearing rooms are going to be a lot better. However, the enemies themselves just have so much health relative even to the floor 10 enemies that it is, I know I cleared that one fast, that it's quite crazy. Now normally it's a cursed shrine all the time, but because I have 3 companions and some of the bonuses might not be applicable because of the challenge, I hesitated in my decision. But cursed shrines usually have really good bonuses to pick from. But here, unfortunately, it was just not a ton of great stuff to choose from. However, if I did find, not that there's any taverns here, but I could have another beer with that maximum stack of tipsiness. Now the 10% trigger damage is amazing. And that is generally one of the best, depending on what build you end up running through with, is just amazing. And same with 10% damage with non-crits, even though if you end up with a lot of intelligence and crit modifier stuff, like, it is, because I have so little, because all of my passive damage isn't really affected by trait scaling, just the flat percentages are incredibly nice to have. And as you can see, like, everything is getting easier as I go along, because every bonus is so much more significant. It's just so satisfying also just rewatching this and just having me sit and do effectively nothing, and then have all of the enemies explode. It is amazing. And here, because I have the revive and 2 armor, I am a little bit greedy and don't go for the repair. So, though it pays off. And this is just one of like the little safe spots I like to stand in during this boss fight and during that particular cycle. Just because the projectiles don't go there, you are affected by the push movement from the stage. However, it's not too bad. Now here I am going to go, well, actually here I'm just going to wait because this cycle is just incredibly hard to hit the boss with anyways. But because I'm not trying to land weapon attacks, I can much more easily focus and dodge. And here I dash through the fire and start going clockwise because of the counterclockwise turn of the orbitals, so that way I'm able to hit more orbitals faster. And the same here of wanting to get very close and finishing up the fight. And now we are on to the final floor. Yeah, so my heart was pounding at this point because I'm very close to the end of the run, and it had just gone really well, and like it's a little bit bragging, but it's like this was my first attempt, so I was really excited that just all of the theory crafting and just playing on Cinder 16 just in general paid off. And there I just get even more stamina, so that way I'm less likely to take damage. And I didn't bother grabbing a heart because I knew that I had so much armor that I could restore and go through before the enemies even would even remotely get to my health. So it's better to just get the stamina and then just be able to dash through everything. Yeah, 10% increased orbital speed is just more damage. Usually that's the end result of what I try and pick, but I think I covered all of the nuances of the build in this particular case of like everything on what I'm going for. Now it is just we're in the cleanup portion. It's not easy cleanup, but it is cleanup. Yeah, and then of course the I think, yeah, here I just picked the shop for the free room, and then I go on my way to the boss room. And I didn't even have to use the extra repair powder because of just very nice dodging. And again, so positioning is important here. I'm trying to just stand as close to Eden as possible to get the orbitals to strike and do damage, because without weapons, this boss has an astronomical amount of health. And there are more, what I would say, is cycles where you can't transition to phase 2, where the boss is like, if they're at 1 HP in phase 1, they won't transition to phase 2 until after that particular attack cycle is done. And the final bosses have more of those attack cycles than any of the other ones. And now here we have a little timing mini game that I have never failed, which probably results in death. And some final attack phases that may not have been seen in some of my other videos, because I like going very fast, and usually by the time I hit this part of the as you can see, I've also taken a significant amount of damage. And also usually at this part of the run, if I made it this far, I've usually got something that has a lot of burst potential. And again, like here, I'm down to 1 health before before revives. And as you can see, I'm just kind of mashing and hitting random parts of the menu because, oh boy, was that tense. But I hope you enjoyed this challenge playthrough. I know I found it was a relaxing challenge. Even though at the time it was 43 minutes and 25 seconds according to the speedrun timer of incredibly intense gameplay and dodging projectiles. Thank you all so much for watching. I know these one-offs are, I just enjoy them a lot, and I hope you do too. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you have an amazing day, and that I'll catch you in the next challenge video. See ya!